Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show, new topic, and my guest today is literally from the other side also of the world, and we have about 12 hours difference, and we'll talk about that soon. So my guest is actually calling in from Taiwan, and but he is a special guest, just like all my guests, but his unique specialty is turning and changing people, to believe in themselves and really tap into their resources and their inner selves and make them successful. He's a business coach. He's actually rated #1 business coach in Asia. And so we're going to talk about that. But what's more specific and special about my guest today is his story, his real story of success, how he began. A lot of people would probably relate to this, or probably would be like shocked with it, because sometimes we hear all of the time excuses as to why my life sucks, why I'm not doing good, why things are not working out. And we give ourselves every single reason why we didn't do it, couldn't make it, and we're not going to make it. Now, for those of you who watch my shows or listen to the radio, you would know one thing. I'm all about motivation. And this is actually what the mission of this station is to get you guys going. And my social media is all about, again, inspiration, motivation quotes, keeping, the goals. Don't worry about it, positivity. Well, we have someone who does that better. So again, I've been very, very suspenseful as usual. And so my guest today is Daniel Tolson, all the way from Taiwan. And again, he is business coach, extraordinaire. So Daniel, welcome to the show. That was a long, lengthy introduction, but it's well deserved.
It's a beautiful introduction, and I've got to give you an Australian introduction. G'day. How you doing?
I like it. Oh, don't throw them off. I said Taiwan, you say good day. Australia, they're going to think, so that's the background, I'm assuming, right? Go ahead. Well, so Daniel, first of all, thank you for being with us, and really for accepting the invitation and willing to share your wisdom and your insights with us. And we're looking forward to it. Your story, I think that would be a good place to start. And we would like people to hear about you and what happened and how you began your journey.
Well, I thought I was smart. And one day at school, they said, we're going to send Daniel to the space lab. And I thought the space lab for those kids who were going to be astronauts. But they sent me to a place in a part of the school where all the kids were off the planet. So I'm in this thing called Space Lab, and I've been diagnosed with linear sequential learning disability. So for me, learning was really hard, and I couldn't do it in a sequential manner. And so I was finding it hard to learn. I'm playing guitar, and I keep making mistakes, and my music teacher's yelling at me, my mum's smashing my guitar. And then they realise that I'm tone deaf. So I'm trying to play guitar, but I can't hear the difference between any of the notes. And then they realise I have some visual impairments, and then they realise my spine's twisted, my neck's out of alignment, and then the platelets in the cranium are pushing down on the left and right hemispheres of the brain. And so all the information coming in is just getting jumbled up, and I'm having these constant nosebleeds. And then eventually my body collapsed. I had my bronchial tubes were collapsing. I had asthma and all of these allergies, and I was a mess. So I spent about 5 years in remedial therapy, fixing up the body, getting the mind back together. And then as I started to come good, I got Epstein-Barr virus, chronic fatigue. I got adult teenage chickenpox. I was getting tonsillitis like 6 times a year. And I think I was just rebelling. I think I was saying, I don't want to go to school anymore. Learning sucks. And then I dropped out of school at age 17, and I thought it was going to get better from there. And then I had 2 consecutive knee operations year after year. So I'm happy to say the first 19 years of my life were absolute hell. They were a big challenge. But it did set me up for learning resilience, which is a key component of emotional intelligence.
Wow, Daniel, that's powerful. And it's not everybody can say what you just said about themselves and still be, excited and say, I'm doing it. So the 19 years were a tough one. I mean, it was not a dull moment, and I'm sure it was tough for you, for your family. And again, you said you dropped out of school and you just couldn't keep up. For a lot of people, that may be the end. I mean, and unfortunately, it is reality. And a lot of people would say, well, I can't do this, and I'll just have to discover my way somewhere else. And sometimes they struggle. And it could be the end, really, of success. And maybe they just get into a job here and there and just to make ends meet, and that's about it. But there's no true success that comes out of that one. I mean, it could be a different level of success, family, maybe other things, but I'm talking business, success. But in your case, that was not the end. That was the beginning.
It was the beginning for me. And after I left school, I went to business college, and I got sick when I was at business college, so that started and didn't finish, and it kind of reinforced these limiting beliefs about learning. I'm not smart enough. I can't learn. Everybody else is going to be successful except me. And you go through that whole comparison stage, and you look at everybody getting really good marks and results, and you think, I get a bad mark, but it feels like I'm getting punished. And that was really frustrating because I had the knowledge inside of my mind. I just couldn't express it. And for years, that same pattern of behavior, those limiting beliefs, those learning disabilities kept haunting me. And I remember it was still all the way up to age 30, 28, 29, 30, 31. I was working with Emirates Airline. And I would constantly go into examinations for my flying license, and I would fail. Always fail. But what I realized was every time I failed, I'd run the same pattern. And I had the opportunity to tell everybody about my limitation. Well, I failed because I have learning disabilities, because I can't do this, because I don't do that. But then I realized every time I told everybody about the poor me story, they're like, oh, Daniel, you're so amazing. You've come so far. You've achieved so much. You're so successful. And then I realized I was getting significance from the pain. And I started to see this pattern year after year after year until I went, this has got to stop. This is terrible. I'm putting myself through so much pain because if the pass mark was 80, I'd only get 79. And then after I got all this significance, I would be asked to go back to the exam. They would increase the pass mark up to 90%, and then I'd get 100%. And then I'd get this, oh, Daniel, see, you can do it. You're so smart. You're so clever. You've overcome this. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm just running a pattern for my entire life. Up till age 32, I was running the same pattern. And I really had to say, this has got to stop. And I'd realized I'd done the same thing throughout my life. Yes, I did have a learning disability. No, I wasn't dumb. I was intelligent, but I think I was using my intelligence against me. And I had to wake up to that. And once I woke up to that, I could actually stop all those bullshit stories. And that was a big turning point for me.
Well, listen, what you did apparently is not unique. I mean, in a way, everyone, they always, when you feel that you fail, you'll find a reason why you fail, and you go to the easiest one that you have. In your case, you always relate that. But you always go back.
The excuse-making gland gets inflamed.
Well, again, you'll find one, right? You'll justify it too, and that's exactly what we all do as humans. I mean, we find like what is that reason that why I can do it, and we get the excitement, but we find justification, and that's good enough, and that keeps you motivated to a degree. But it's not motivation; it just actually keeps you stagnating and not willing to do more or better. And
well, they're the three evils. Blame.
Let's talk about them.
Yeah, the three evils there, and you said it: blame, justification, and identification. If you keep blaming somebody else, you remain a victim. If you keep justifying what's happening, you remain a victim. If you keep identifying, which I was after 32 years, then you can't escape it. So blame, justification, and identification. And as soon as you stop any of those three things, you don't become a victim anymore. of it. It doesn't hold you back. But the pattern becomes so deep and the reward is so great. Hey, did you know I have a learning disability? Did you know I can't do this? Did you know I can't do that? Did you know this is how my mind works? And then you identify with this story. And then you justify, well, I can't have that because I've got a learning disability. And then you blame the learning disability, and then you blame the teachers. And you go through all of that, but you remain a victim. And that's dangerous. That's really dangerous.
Well, it is, but some people may call that comfort. I mean, I'd hate to say it, but sometimes, I'd rather, because maybe I lose the courage. I don't have the bravery to actually go further. I kind of lose that mojo, that fire that I want to do more, and then that's it. That victim status becomes you, and you just stay there. And every time, you're gonna find a reason to say like, "Well, I tried, but it didn't work out."
Here's an interesting way to look at it. People don't lack courage. They just use courage in the wrong direction. Instead of having courage to leave the comfort zone, they have the courage to stay in the comfort zone.
I love it. Yes. But it's easier, right? Because here's the thing, the courage to leave it means hardship, trying, more pain, different error and trial and failures maybe or attempts, and that maybe fall in and whatever. But that's a long journey. And, people may not want to go through that journey because they feel that that's, too much. And when I'm in the comfort zone, I've been doing this, to your point, you said 30 years. Okay, well, I don't have to do more. I think I'm make the next 30 years or 90 years, whatever, in the same way. And that's how it stays. And unless they get somebody to really switch that switch literally and turn it on and like, hey, no, you can't do this. You got better things better fish to fry. You can do things. But unfortunately, sometimes people don't have that. In your case, I'm not sure if somebody actually did trigger that, or it was just that wake up call for you, like, no, damn it, no more. I'm going to do something different. I am not, I have a disability. I'm smart. I just operate differently. See, you understood what it was. And once you defined yourself as like, I can do this, but I just have a different way to do it. This is not, I'm not going to be like everybody else. That's okay. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I think we're all unique and we all have our own ways of doing things, and we don't have to subscribe to everybody else's formula or style. So we do our own, right? But you realized that, and you didn't stop there. You just took action. And I think that's the biggest part of, where people are limited. They don't want to take that action. They don't even have that talk. You kind of discussed that in your mind, and you said, no, enough is enough. We're doing this. Not everybody has that ability, but you now today, you use that. Not only you used it for yourself and succeeded, but not only that, you actually are coaching people from celebrities to business people and coaching them to be better and better and more, and literally ultimately giving them the ability to be millionaires and beyond. So let's talk about the transition. And I know that is going to be a phase where you had to readjust and do this and got out the comfort zone. And by the way, I mean, you mentioned something. You were in the Emirate Airline, so you were working, you were doing things. So just for the audiences, I mean, you were not doing it, and you were doing it, but it was still with the limitations in your mind as to what you were able to do and where you can be. But for a lot of people, that would be the end. I mean, I'm good. I got a job, right? and that's the majority of people. They just stick there like, I'm cool. I don't need any more, but they'll blame everything else because like, well, I can't drive the car I want. I can't have this. I can't have that. You can be settling for a very simple life, which there's nothing wrong with that. Life doesn't mean you have to have your private plane or or your yacht. That's okay. That's a luxury. If you want to live that lifestyle, that's good, but you work towards it. But you can be comfortable and live a happy life. And we're not against that part. So if someone, that's where they are, that's where they see themselves, great. But what I do know for a fact, no matter who you are, wherever you are, you still look at the other guys. I know, I don't think of anyone that actually looks at somebody who has a yacht and says, oh, damn, that's a nice yacht. Or that, me personally, I mean, I admire those things. I'd love to have one. I don't have one yet, but the idea is we all have that, wow, what are you doing? How can I get there? But when you ask the question, these people are doing different things from what you would be possibly doing in normal days, right? Yeah. So let's talk about that. That's your expertise.
Well, for me, when I was at school, I realized that I was thinking different and seeing things different to other people. And there was a period of time where I just wanted to fit in and I wanted to be like others. And then I started to look at others and I was like, that's actually not all that attractive to me. I don't want to be just another brick in the wall. I don't want to be following the latest trend, the latest band. And I remember kids at school wearing Nirvana shirts and talking about Kurt Cobain and trying to look like Kurt Cobain. I thought, hey, he's got great music, but what are you trying to be like somebody else for? And so I was happy being an individual, and I was very introverted, which was nice for me because I'd go into my inner world of thought, and I was having a great time in here, how I saw the world. And so after I got out of school, I got into real estate, and my uncle said to me, he said, hey, come and get into real estate. And I said, why would I do that? He said, because you're out of control. He said, you're like a runaway train. He said, you need stability. I'm thinking, I'm 19. Why would I want stability for? Like, that just seems like stupidity. Anyway, he's a good guy, and he said, look, I'll show you how to succeed in real estate. And he said, in real estate, this is the last place on the planet where you can write your own paycheck with no education. And I thought to him, I said, is this a compliment? Or are you like slapping me in the face saying, I've got no education, I can't go anywhere else? And he said, no, it's a compliment. You know, you can come here, you can write your own paycheck. So I thought, well, I like the sound of that. And he said, Daniel, he said, you're going to get rewarded for your personality, not for your school certificate. He said, people don't care about that in this world. They just care, are you a nice person? Can you deliver on a promise? And can you help them sell their property for the highest price in the best time possible? And I said, okay, well, show me how to do it. So he taught me how to do it, and I was introduced to personal development. So I started to go to all these seminars, and I was like, this is really cool. There's a bunch of people like me, all the deviants here, all the people who sucked at school, and I'm surrounded by all these people making millions of dollars in real estate every year. And I thought to myself, well, maybe there's a bit of a chance here. So he taught me what I needed to know, and within the first year, I was in the top 10 sales creators in the country. And not one person ever asked me about my results at school. And I was like, this is cool, this real world. They didn't even care about this school certificate stuff. So after that, he said, hey, you're doing really good. The next goal is to get you into sales. But before you get into sales, I want you to buy a house so you understand the emotional journey that everybody has to go through, so you understand the process. So within 6 months, I'm 19 and a half and buying my first investment property. And he invested with me so I could make it happen. And then he put me in sales. And then I went from success to success to success in sales. And then coming up to 21, and I'm buying my second house. And so there's like $500,000 worth of real estate here already. And I'm 20, not even 21. There's $500,000 worth of real estate. And I went, wow, this is really cool. And then I looked at my paycheck. I'm making more money than my teachers and my headmaster at school. These people who used to call my mum up all the time. Mrs. Tolson, this is the senior master of boys. Your son has done this again. And I'm laughing going, they're educated. I'm not, and I'm making more money. This is insane. And so I eventually achieved my goals in real estate. And I said to my uncle, who's my mentor, I said, you know, I'm really happy with what I've achieved, but this is not for me. Really, it's not for me. I don't feel satisfied. There's something inside me, and I want to pursue my sporting career. And he said, go do it. So I packed my bag and I went and traveled through Europe, and I had some awesome traveling experiences out of the comfort zone, getting to know new people, being by myself. I love to be by myself. I'm an introvert. I love just to spend time with my inner world of thoughts and making sense of who I am. So I went and traveled, ended up in America, coaching water sports over there, coaching water sports in the UK. And then I came back and I launched a business in Australia. And that started to go from strength to strength to strength. I went out and I sold my products and services, and I ended up having 50 retail outlets across the country stocking my clothing brand. And it was awesome because nobody ever asked me about my school certificate. They didn't ask me, what did you master in? Did you go to university? What's your degree? Nobody cared anymore. They just cared about the personality and the relationship. So that was going really good, and I got more opportunities, and I became an Australian champion. I was on front covers of magazines, in videos, on television. I then got asked to go over to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai, and they said, we want a champion athlete to come over here and teach the expats and locals how to wakeboard. So I said, well, I'm your man. I'm coming over. So I got onto an aircraft, went over to Dubai, had no idea where it was in the world, and then I'm on television, I'm on the radio, I'm in the press. And nobody asked me about my results at school. They didn't care about that. So I started to realize that my perception of what people wanted and reality was totally different. And so I become more comfortable with who I was. I become more confident. And then my business partner betrayed me after I was in Dubai, and I tried to get on the internet. I tried to access internet banking. I can't get into internet banking. I ring the accountant, and the accountant says, I can't talk to you. And I said, why not? He said, because I don't work for you anymore. So I go to Dubai and I lose my business. I can't get my business back. It all falls apart. I go back to Australia. I'm no longer working for my family business. I go back to Dubai, get another job, come back to Australia. I'm unemployed. 2008. And I'm like, shit, what's going on? So I start to apply for jobs. Nobody will employ me now because I don't have a school certificate. Nobody will employ me because I've only ever had a business and I have no formal track record or an employee to vouch for me. I have no university degree. And so I'm at the bottom of the barrel, and the only jobs I could get was a builder's labourer and a traffic controller. And for 6 months, I'm at the bottom of the barrel. I'm looking at the sky, talking to God, going, come on, like, is this my life? 28 years of all of this hard work and struggle, and you've just thrown me more curveballs? Like, come on, big fella, this is bullshit. This is insane. Like, I'm here to achieve bigger things than this, than just controlling traffic. And I was at the bottom of the barrel. I wasn't happy in my life. I didn't like my life. I looked in the mirror and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't see the Australian champion athlete anymore. I didn't see the 3-time state champion athlete. I didn't see the extreme games competitor. I couldn't even see the person who had built this business, who was having 50 retailers across the country sell the stuff. And I just didn't see myself anymore. And then one day I was driving home from work really pissed off, and I'm like, this has got to change. And I looked up and I saw this big sign and it said Emirates. And I said, you know what? I'm going back to Dubai. Screw Australia. Fuck this, I'm out of here. And I look at the sign, and I went down to the news agency, picked up the newspaper, and they said, we're employing. Emirates Airlines employing. I went and got a haircut, rang the company and said, I want to be at this interview. And they said, sure, it's going to be in 2 weeks' time. Get ready. So I sent them my CV. I went to the interview. I went in, just super sociable, super nice, like I am, caring for people. Got recognised, went through the first round, 150 people. Out of 150 people in the first round of interviews, 100 people got cut out. So I'm in the next 50. The next 50% get cut. The next 50% get cut. And I'm in the final 10. And they said, congratulations, you've got the job. And I said, when do you want me to start? They said 6 weeks. And I said, well, screw that. How does 2 weeks sound? And they said, yep, we'll make it happen. So 2 weeks later, I'm back in Dubai, start to climb through the ranks. And eventually I was co-leading a team of 17,000 cabin crew. But the turning point, again, was just these years of drama and these years of setbacks, the years of making money, and then literally losing it all. And then at 4 a.m. in the morning in 2010, I got a telephone call. And I was in a part of the company called peer support and critical incident stress management. And my team trained for aircraft accidents. And the day that there was going to be an aircraft accident, we would get deployed to take care of the families. And then that phone call came through at 4 a.m. Daniel, there's been an accident on the aircraft, followed by, this is not a duty call. And I said to my duty controller, I said, well, what is it? They said, it's your fiance. She's been involved in an accident. Oh, no. They said, we just want you to come down to the hospital straight away. So I went down there, and there she is, unconscious. She's in a stretcher, and she's bandaged up from ankle to hip. And they said, coming into landing, she took a fall in the aircraft, and she's fractured her knee in 5 places. We're going to have to do an emergency surgery and remove the kneecap because it's just shattered. And I said, well, that's a big operation. You want to take the kneecap out? I said, a leg without a kneecap, does the leg still work? They said, oh, we could put a prosthetic in there, but that'll take time. And I said, well, would you please try to save the kneecap first of all, and then think about the next steps later on? So they did the emergency surgery. They saved the kneecap, but they had to wire it back together. So at that stage, she's been put on industrial injury. For the next 2.5 years, she's in and out of 3 major surgeries, and I'm just taking care of her non-stop whilst I'm trying to build my career. And then after 2 years, when she literally just got back up on her feet, she was 4 months pregnant, she then lost a job. And so there's no income stream. And then we get close to losing our daughter 3 times in pregnancy because of the stress. And then she's forced to leave the country because her visa's expired. And then I've got to make a choice. Do I keep working or do I go home to see the birth of my daughter? So I want to go home to see the birth of my daughter, but I've got no holidays because for the past 2.5 years, the company's been really good to me and given me extra time off. But they said, Daniel, we just can't give you any more time off. You've got 2 choices. You either flip the coin and hopefully you get time off, or you've got to resign from your job. So I'm co-leading a team of 17,000 people. We're on the minimum wage and we've had no real good income from her career. And then I leave my career. So we've got no money. We've only got savings. And then I took the leap of faith. I was there for the birth of my daughter. I thought my business was going to work, but within 6 months, I've lost all of my money. I started applying for jobs, 300 jobs later on. What do they want? 300 job applications later on. They want high school certificate. They want university degrees. And I'm unemployable again after all that experience. After co-leading a team of 17,000 camera crew, I'm unemployable. And I slipped into depression. I thought I had breathing problems. I went to the hospital. I said, I think I've got a lung infection. They said, Mr. Tolson, we've done x-rays. It's all in your head. Go and see the psychologist. Psychologist, you're depressed. You've probably been depressed for the last couple of years with what you've been through. And so by the end of that year, everything just went downhill. And coming to the end of 2013, I said to my wife, I said, I've sold my properties. I've got no money left. We've spent everything trying to build the business. The only way we can survive is if we go back to Australia and we go on Social Security. So I'm it's 2014, after all of that worldly experience, after all the success, after all the achievements, I'm on Social Security and living in the spare room at my grandparents' house, newly married with a 1-year-old baby. And it got down to that low again. And it was just this repetitive thing over and over and again, and these things were coming back to haunt me. Didn't matter how much success I had achieved. When I needed to look for work, nobody would accept me for my skill sets. All they cared about was a certificate. And then I just realized that 2014, I'm absolutely unemployable. Moving forward, I can't get a job other than being a labourer. Even with all of this worldly success, people don't care about leading a team of 17,000. They don't care about the businesses I've built. I've got nothing at all, no money, government security, lost it all. And there I am, 2014.
Daniel, we need to take just a few steps back because I want to break down some of the elements that you've covered. And I'm listening to your story, and in my mind, I mean, I know folks watching right now, listening in, they probably have similar stories because I think we all have gone through ups and downs in life. But we'll start with that first element, which keeps coming as a common denominator for you, which is the certificate, the education. So let's talk about that just for a brief moment. Unfortunately, so there's 2 levels. I always have this debate with people like, oh, educated means you have to have a degree or no degree. We live in a world that today you can be educated and super intelligence and you don't even have to get a paper because you have everything. You can Googleize everything, you can YouTube everything, and you can, get coaches and you can learn. I mean, information today is available. This is not, 50 years ago where you go to the library and you have to dig into books. You want something, you ask Siri and AI can give you all the answers, and you can, my kids actually throw that joke at me every now and then. They say, Dad, why do we have to do this? I can just ask Siri; she can tell me everything. I mean, literally. So I think society has designed, those I guess metrics over the years, and it became the standardized, version. You're only as good as that paper. I remember in college, for me personally, I had an experience, and my professor said, the degree is a piece of paper. Does not mean you're intelligent. Does not mean you're educated. It's just a paper that you go through a certain routine and get it done. Now, by the way, I don't want to knock down education. I don't want to knock down the knowledge and the professors and the teachers and all those people that are out there, but the systems are different. That's not necessarily equivalent to you being smart. You were smart, you were intelligent, you were successful, you did it. But because you didn't have that paper, you were not equal. You were not, in the mix. You were not in the game. You're not even in the game because, you're not seen as like, worthy, right? And by the way, that story is not just yours. I mean, that story is many, 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 many people. And a lot of folks cannot even afford to go to education. I mean, some countries, education is free. In the US, it's not free. You have to pay for it. So some people, they stop. There's nothing they can do. And so that's not because they're not intelligent or smart. They're just because they can't afford it. Simple. It's just economics, right? You're not able to pay for your school. That's a problem. Unfortunately, some places, school is affordable or accessible at no cost. And you can go to the higher education and still be good. Maybe if you're lucky, you have a scholarship, whatever, that's one thing. But I think what I wanted to get from this point is that we're going to talk about you after 2014 and where you went from there. And it's going to change.
Down. Wait for the rest.
Don't scare me, man. Well, all I know is that you're not down now. That's the bottom line. So we're going to have to come back somehow. But the fact of the matter is, folks are listening. So some people are going to be like debating like, well, you didn't go to school. You didn't finish school, whatever the case, blah, blah, blah. We talked about all the success in the beginning. Well, it was a temporary success and an experience. At the end of the day, all these ups and downs made you who you are and made the commitments and the changes in life that you did. And today you can say, degree, no degree, it doesn't matter. There's other factors that can play in who you are and how you are, able to succeed in life. And again, we measure success based on what's defined for us. And that, again, education is a system that's already defined for us in a particular way. A lot of successful people may not have actually, and so historically have not even gotten certain degrees that would be today like the way to go. And even with those things, you talked about real estate earlier, and I can relate to real estate because I've worked in the real estate world for many years. You're right. People are millionaires without having to step out. Actually, in New York State, all you need is an actual course, 75 hours, and you go take the state exam, and voila, you're actually a real estate agent. Then 2 years later, you sell a couple of properties. You're a broker. You can start your business, and now you're selling $1 million houses and making millions a year. So you don't have an actual formal education, and you still can do this. And that's the other part. So licenses. So it's not a labor, but it's a different tactic. It's a different world, right? Not for everyone, but it is definitely one. So you mentioned that as a beginning. At your age, 19, 20, 21, you have 2 properties. That's a success. That's really success. Many people don't have a home, beyond that point. I mean, they can be in their mid years and still don't have an actual house. So that's successful in a way. And to me, each one of those steps, including the failures, including the changes, and you're right. I mean, listen, you did the right thing, by the way. You took care of your family and you left the job. And you know what? That was a sacrifice that's worth it. And I know you're happy today. So the bottom line is sometimes those sacrifices will pay off and and for the right reasons. It was not for the wrong reasons. You didn't just walk away because, somebody else could have said, you know what? Well, my job comes first. I'm sorry, honey. There could have been just that. And we hear stories left and right? So you didn't do that and you did it correctly, but you went back. And again, for some people now that may have lost hope in their life, this is where your hope, message is strong. You went back to something that, most people will call it welfare, social security. You basically are using other money, the taxpayers' money, as some people would state.
We call that leverage.
Exactly. And most people would actually point a finger like you're abusing the system. You are the reasons why we don't go, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The economy sucks. And we can get into politics there, but we're not going there. but you know what I'm talking about. So you went exactly where everybody would be like looking like you are completely not doing it. You're just not worthy at any given point from the perspective of people, because that's what it is. People see what you have. When you had money and you had the businesses, nobody cared. Nobody cared. They just looked at you because that's who you are. You're in front of them. They see they see now. You're driving a nice car. That's all they know. They have no idea. They don't care what school did you go to? What degree do you have? No, nobody's going to ask that question. But when you didn't have that, they're going to look at you like, oh, look at you. You're using the welfare system. You're using this, you're using that. You're not good to us. What's up? And unfortunately, that's just life. People are going to judge you and qualify you and put you in buckets depending how they see you. Whatever situation you're in at any given time, somebody is actually deciding for you where you belong. And it's so sad, but it's reality. But for people watching and listening, all this, it's something that we can just absorb and learn from. because it can happen to any one of us. And I know personally, I've had my ups and downs. I've had, great success years and I have some bottom success years, and, and it doesn't stop. You got to keep up. You got to give up. I'm an immigrant. I mean, I can relate to stories just like you, and well, not like you're worse than you, because technically I traveled away from my homeland, left my family 30 years ago, and with the American dream, like in my mind. So, and it was not easy. You come into a country with a bag and you don't know anybody, and you try to make it from there, and it didn't take much for some level of success, at least to my level of success, what I defined as success. And in comparison to others, it could still be qualified as such. But you know what? It didn't stop. And during that, it was up and down, and people don't see what you go through. They don't care. They see what you achieve, what you have, and they judge you like, oh, look at him. That's it. But so people, everybody watching and listening, you have this, you can do this. And yes, life is going to throw in a lot of curveballs, a lot of hurdles, a lot of bumps, and you will still do this. Resilience, you mentioned the keyword resilience earlier. That's it. I mean, resilience is the proper, way to tool with, and make things happen. And of course, you have to have commitment and things. So again, I wanted to go back, and we covered a lot of grounds in this last 5 minutes about what you've mentioned there, but you got to the point where you really just said, okay, bad. And we're in 2014. What was that next move? What was the next thing that happened to you?
Well, I had to realize that I was unemployable based on what I was trying to achieve. So I just accepted that was the reality, and it made it easy for me just to decide that the best thing for me is just to be an entrepreneur and to put myself and play a game where people don't care about the other stuff. Like, they're not going to hassle me about a certificate. They look at me and say, what contribution can you make to our life? And so I thought to myself, I've tried to go to university, and I went for 1 semester, Hurricane, and they asked me to leave. They said, Daniel, you can't succeed here. You got to go back to high school, do all that again. And I said, I ain't doing that. So I'm not going to play that game. So you got to quickly find out what works and what doesn't work. So I got back to Australia and I said, well, what am I good at? Well, firstly, I'm resilient, and you can keep knocking me down. I'm going to keep getting back up. So I know I've got that as a foundation. What else do I know? Well, I know how to knock on doors because I used to knock on 500 a week. Now, I'm going back to a place where I really haven't lived since 2007. And so I go back there in 2014. 7 years later, the entire landscape has changed. People have changed. The look of the people has totally changed. I don't know anybody anymore because I've lived out of the country for so long. Everybody where I live's kind of moved on. And I went, well, what I know how to do is I know how to knock on doors. So for the next 100 days, I just knocked on doors every single day. Knock, knock. Hello, my name's Daniel Tolson. Do you have this problem in your business? Would you like a solution? 99 out of 100 people said no, 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 no. But within 100 days, I'd found my first $100,000 worth of business. And I was living in my grandparents' house. I moved out of the house, got an apartment, started to live there, started to build the business, started getting a ton of work, started getting these incredible results with people, and people were blown away. I worked with a group of real estate agents. They paid me $30,000 for some coaching, and inside of 90 days, 3 guys tripled their income, and the 4th guy took his income from $300,000 a year in commissions to over $800,000 a year in commission. And they were just like, this is insane. So the word got around that I was really good at coaching and working with specifically mindset, not teaching them how to sell real estate. They could do that. They just didn't have the mindset to do it. So I was starting to get the referrals, and I said, I'm going to turn this into a business. So I bought 3 salespeople into my business. I hired an office. I bought all of these computers and technology, and we had like this Wolf of Wall Street call center, just without the drugs. It was, high energy. We're all excited. We're all coaches.
We're not judging
business. We just didn't have the Cuban marching powder in there, and we were on the calls. Well, actually, I'll tell you this. There was 2 guys working for me. And my mum because my mum would come and hustle with me. Like, my mum's cool. She'd come and hustle. And she said, one of these guys has got a sinus problem. He's always sniffing. And I swear to God, I listened into this conversation, and these 2 guys who were working for me, they had been partying on the weekend, and both of them had been doing coke over the weekend. And as soon as I found that out about them, I kicked him out of my business. I kicked him out. I said, guys, if you want to do that in your life, you can do that, but that's not what I'm promoting. It doesn't align with my values. We're talking about mindset, and you're racking up lines on the weekend. Have fun on the weekend, but you ain't bringing that into my business because that will kill my reputation. So I've employed these people. I've got them out the door, and over the next 60 days, the market disappears. I can't get an appointment. I can't make a sale. Nothing that we're doing that's getting in our way. The market's just collapsed. It comes into the middle of the financial year. People stop buying, and our savings start to deplete. There's no new money coming in. And I said to my wife, I said, if we don't make any money before September, we won't survive till February, because what happens in Australia traditionally, we have these carnivals. So in November, people start going to the horse races and they stop thinking about working. By December, all they care about is Christmas. By the time January comes around, they've got a hangover and they've maxed out all their credit cards, so they stop spending. And then we have holiday after holiday after holiday. So you have Australia Day long weekend in January, followed by Valentine's Day. And people really don't get money or a good paycheck till the end of February. So you go through this period of time where there's about 4 months of no spending. And I said to my wife, we're in trouble. We're going to go bankrupt. And she said, what are we going to do? I said, we have to leave Australia. We've got to leave. And so I started to offload everything. I had a car, sold my car. We had an apartment. We moved out of the apartment. I had furniture. I had to sell it all. I had to sell my surfboards, my push bikes, my computers, just to get enough money to get out of the country and to go back to Taiwan. So we go back to Taiwan. It's 2014. Now we're living with our grandparents again in Taiwan. And the only thing I could do, and this was so embarrassing, I took a job teaching 7-year-olds English, which was my worst subject at school. And the reason why they took me was because I had a blue passport and white skin. They said, we don't care how good your English is. You're just Aussie. Just come and talk to the kids. And so I'm teaching kids English. But it was enough money to put food on the table. That was it. And then I started to build the business. And then after that, I started to get this success. The ball starts to roll. I'm building this 7-figure business online in a country where I don't even speak the language. I'm flying all around the world doing seminars, coaching people. I'm flying back to Australia. I'm flying to the Middle East. I've built a business over in the UK. I'm coming back to Taiwan, and the ball's rolling. It's going really good, and we get up to 2019, and I've just had my highest income earning hour, and I've just started to earn. And this was really important for me. And, you know, I'm not bragging because there's other people who are doing more than this, but it was important for me because I was able to command $5,000 per consulting hour for what I was doing. Now, I had no certificate. People didn't ask me about the certificate. People didn't care about my certificate. All they cared about was, can I get results for these companies? And they paid me $5,000 for an hour of consulting. That was more than I had made in an entire month being cabin crew. 5,000 in an hour. And I'm like, said to my wife, I said, I've got it. All these years of study and preparation, I've got it. And then the day after that, I was training 1,000 people. I literally made $1,000. I'd had to fly to Australia, make the money, come back to Taiwan, and I'm on stage in front of 1,000 people. 1,000 people just absolutely loving what I've got for them. And then a couple of months later, I'm over in Malaysia speaking to 350 people on stage. And then COVID comes. And they announced that they're going to lock down the borders in Malaysia. And I got out of the country literally within about 4 hours. Then they shut down the border. I arrived back into Taiwan 30 minutes before they were going to shut down the border. And then the world closed down. And so I haven't been back to my home country for 2.5 years. But also because of COVID, and I was living outside of Australia because I'd spent about 6 months in Australia, 6 months in Taiwan. I was out of the country and I could no longer be a company director. So I had to shut down my company. After I shut down my company, I had to shut down my franchise business that I owned as well. So through the middle of the pandemic, literally I lost my company and my business. But I had to keep reinventing myself. And through COVID, the business got bigger and bigger and bigger. But I've got all the drama in the back end where I'm shutting down everything that I've created. And it was nothing that I could actually control because I could not travel. And I haven't traveled out of Taiwan for more than 2.5 years. So everything's collapsing, but at the same time, the rubble's becoming the foundations, and we're building this monster on top of it. So, really the point that I want to make is if you can accept that life's hard, then you're going to have a head start. If you can accept that you're going to fail more times than you can succeed, then life's going to become really easy. If you can expect that you're going to have crisis in the future, there's going to be change, there's going to be conflicts, and you can open that with, you can welcome it with open arms, then you're going to be a step ahead of everybody else. And so I know and I understand history that all big societies today were small societies in the past. And armies came along, just like what's happening in the Ukraine at the moment. People come in, they try to take over. But as long as you can, hold that centerpiece, as long as you can preserve the citadel. Now, when you're self-employed, you are the citadel. You're the most important thing. As long as you can preserve your own integrity and survive, once all of that destruction disappears and the dust settles, you can grow again. You can expand. Before every expansion, there's a contraction. All ladies know this in childbirth. For every expansion, there's a contraction. And we've got to go through these expansions and through the contractions, and this is where your unique character is formed. So for my whole life, expansion, contraction, make it, lose it. But every time I lose it, I come out 2, 3, 4 times bigger. And so I welcome it now and say, what do you got at me? God, if there's a God, what do you got for me? Throw me something. Give me some drama, because every time you give me some drama, I grow and become more successful. The fees go up, the amount of customers go up. So just keep throwing stuff at me. I'm cool with it now. So,
you've gotten so much training. It's not even funny.
Yeah, it was all free.
You're so used to this up and down. But again, this is your story is powerful. But a lot of people are probably having the same. They just don't realize it. Sometimes they don't even put it in perspective the way you do it, right? I mean, you're talking about it now, and but it has great success. Yes, but it has also downfalls. You have different times where just shit happens. You can't control. I mean, by the way, when you talked about the pandemic, I mean this was the case for almost everybody. The world just basically no one ever had anticipated the world will shut down. I mean, it's not something you comprehend or you can anticipate, but it did. And it did for a longer time than we expected initially. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, and years later, it was still, some countries still open and closed these days, right? It was that, and a lot of people lost their money, businesses, jobs, but there was also a great opportunity in the same time where a lot of people found themselves and found their true motivation, and through call-ins and things like that, and they actually got more and better success than they would have done if they had no pandemic before. It's amazing.
You know how Trump calls it the China virus? He calls it the China virus. My belief is that we co-create in all of this. And I know people secretly were saying, Daniel, I hate my job. I hate my job. I hate my job. I hate my job. I've been doing it for 20 or 30 years. I hate my life. And the interesting thing is COVID came along. They lost their job. The company collapsed. But what did they get? They got to make the decision. And they said, I no longer have to go back to that shithole. And so when you look at it, I believe that all of us at some level of consciousness have wanted this. I had been building my business in Australia, flying backwards and forwards, but the cost was I couldn't see my family for sometimes 2 and 3 months at a time. And I said to my wife, I don't want to go back to Australia. But if I have to build a business, I've got to go back there. But I'm totally conflicted. So when COVID came along, I was like, you know what, God, you answered my prayers. You just gave me a reason where I didn't have to go back and have a physical business. I only wanted to have a digital business. And through COVID-19, my prayers were answered. And all of my business people that I work with, all of their prayers were answered during COVID-19. I had people saying, we don't want people in an office. We see people traveling an hour to work, an hour home. They're always tired. We don't want them here. They don't need to come here. And as soon as COVID happened, all of a sudden they said, don't come to work. People were happy. I've got a friend, he was running a business, doing door-to-door sales, and he said, I hate this. He says, I don't want to do it anymore. COVID comes along. He quit that and he went and worked for a finance company. He worked for finance. He got COVID. He wiped his entire team out with COVID, but then they all got to work from home. And he's tripled his income working from home. And he said, Daniel, this is the best thing ever. I can stay at home. I'm with my fiance. I don't have to travel. I don't have to get up as early. My health's better, and I've tripled my income. He said it was the best thing ever. Yes, it was traumatic because I got COVID and I got sick and everybody else got sick because of me. But look at me now. So I believe at some level of consciousness, when we get past all the ego and the vanity of what we've lost, we have gained so much more. So much more.
I totally agree. Well, first of all, Danny, what you just talked about is true and real. Because I know personally, first of all, a lot of people watching and listening right now, they probably hate what they do. and I'm not being facetious about it, because 90% of people, they work because they have no choice. They have to pay the bills, because we're stuck with all that circle, right? We have to do this, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes, unfortunately, we get caught up with jobs or whatever, and we just do it because we have to pay, that paycheck, get the paycheck, pay the bills, but you're not happy, you're not. What happened in the pandemic, and I know from just doing this, and as a matter of fact, I had started just before the pandemic with these things, and it just picked up literally in the pandemic, because Zoom became the whole, the holy grail, as they say. So it became it, and I just leverage it. But the fact of the matter, I've done so many interviews with businesses or people who actually found themselves in the pandemic, were able to create their own businesses, and today their businesses are flourishing and doing doing great. And had they been still working in whatever dead-end jobs that they had, they wouldn't be having the success and the freedom and everything that they enjoy now. You said it, family, just commuting 2 hours each way. I mean, I've done my share of commuting personally. I mean, I used to commute to one job 3 hours each way. Another job, it was 2 hours, each way. And eventually you give up because you can't. It's just no way. I mean, I don't care how the money is good, but, there's a price that you're paying. I mean, that's 4 hours a day, 6 hours in addition to the work, hours that you're away from your family, or you can be doing something else. Your thing, I mean, what I love about your story, and you discovered something that should have been discovered by all of us. If not, we should all be in it. And some people have discovered this a long time. When we talk about people working, they're working for someone, right? That someone had discovered what you discovered, which is having a business. You have the business, you own the property, you own everything, you do stuff, people work for you. That's great. I mean, they get paid for it, and that's excellent. You create economy. But at the end of the day, you create also independence. You create also flexibility, freedom. And as I had some other guests, we talked about this, you get the money, but the money is really there as a tool, to do things, and if you can have the money and you're working for the money, but you can't have time to spend it, what's the point? So having a business is not easy. And to your point, nobody's going to ask you for your doctorate or your PhD or whatever, master's or high school, because at the end of the day, you got a successful business, you're making millions, who cares, right? Yep. And like I said, and some people can question that, that doesn't mean that he's educated, he's not that smart. You'll be surprised. I mean, like I said, I can read anything I want, anytime, any given minute. I mean, my phone is with me all the time. We all live with these things right now, right? Yep. And knowledge all I do, like I had one of my guests that we do show like a monthly, he's from Australia, Dr. Heim. And one thing he said, we talked about debating, family debate. It's like, you have to stop debating. One of the simplest things, if you debate, Google. if you and I have a question, oh, no, it's this, no, it's that, just Google it up. You can find out exactly what it is. You don't have to actually fight for stuff that you're available and handy. So, but the fact of the matter is you didn't discover it. It was your calling, and it's working. And it works. It's always worked, and it's always going to work. Again, it takes courage. It takes bravery. It takes, your stamina. This is not something that's for everyone, because not everybody's willing to take a risk. For you, you said it. You already know this. What's the worst that going to happen? You're going to start from zero. You've been there. So you know how to do this over and over and over. It's like if you write, a song, right? And you lose the paper, you can rewrite it because it came from you, right? It's the same thing. You know how to do this. And so some people don't know how to do it from the scratch. The beginning is the hardest part. And the quitting for whatever, like, leaving the past, leaving whatever you do, that's the hardest part. We all are like, reluctant. I don't like what I do, but I don't want to leave. And therefore, I'm going to take whatever shit I take, right? Because I have no choice. And then, some people, well, what are we going to do? We're going to pay the bills, this. And that's actually the sound for everybody. I don't think, just in the US or Australia, I think everywhere in the world, this is the same routine. Everybody wakes up, another day, especially Mondays, right? I mean, it's bad. But imagine how wonderful it is when you can wake up and, how's my account doing? How's everything doing? And, you can just go online and check things. That's the ideal scenario. Obviously, it's not for everyone. And some people say, like, well, that's only a minute number of people that can get that. But that minute people can multiply. It's just a matter of how many people are willing to take that step and make it happen. It is not a secret. You actually help people to do that. You make them find themselves motivation, find the emotional intelligence, and really get reset. And the best person that can give you a reset is someone who has been there, because you can tell them exactly how it is. This story, the show that we're doing right now, is if you're listening to this and you're not getting the concept that you can do this no matter what happens in front of you, then you'll need to watch it a couple more times. That's all. But you'll get it in. But the fact of the matter is, it can happen to any one of us. Listen, I can tell you this right here on the show. There was a day I used to make nice digits, and I went down to $20 in my account. $20. That's it. And I had to start again, and went back again. So it's really as that's $20. There's nothing you can do with it. I mean, sometimes it's like, that's all you own. That's it. Like you said, there's no money. There's no income. You have no job, and you have to reset. And one time I had an interview for a job, and we were stuck, and I didn't have any change because I didn't have the money because I couldn't do anything. So I had to wait. Until I got home to eat. I couldn't buy food, whatever. But that's life, right? It's something that you have to deal with it, but didn't stop me. As a matter of fact, I think about this like, it was just a bump, and I was able to go back up, and things will always go back. That's the other part. Don't feel that it's going to be the end. The end is just, it's always going to be resetting. And you know what? You should also expect sometimes that things always, they're not always going to be what they seem, and they're not always going to be great. There's always going to be something. When it's so good, be wary. Don't take it for granted and say like, oh, I got this. Because you never know what happens. The world can end. A lot of things can do. You never know. To your point, what can just come to us. The pandemic came out of left field, right? The war now, we don't know what the hell's going on and where's it going to end. So we don't know. But you keep doing, you keep building, you keep pounding, and that's it. Sorry about that. I had to,
I love what you're saying. And, if I can summarize that, you got to pay to play. It's like anything. If you want to go to the theme park, you've got to pay to play. If you want to drive the Rolls, if you want to drive the Bentley, you got to pay to play. So you've got to ask yourself, what's the price I'm prepared to pay for my dreams? And your dreams are going to be very expensive. Your dreams aren't free. They require money. And you've also got to make sacrifices. You got to position yourself in life with the best possible chances. For me, I sold my car, and I know my numbers. I know that if you buy a car today for $100,000, the moment that you drive that out of the car yard, you're going to lose $23,000 immediately. And then that car is going to devalue by about $17,000 per year, every year. So I know my numbers, and I look at that and I say, I could spend $100,000 on a car and I'm going to lose $23,000 immediately. That is stupidity. So I haven't owned a car since 2014. I refuse to buy a car because I say, if I have to have a car, then that's going to cost me my dreams. That car will cost me my dreams because I can't put the money into marketing. I can't put the money into acquiring new customers. And if you own a business, business is about buying customers. It's the person who's prepared to pay the most money will get the most customers. And so I remember when I started to go into customer acquisition, I could acquire a lead for $1. And that was back in 2013. You could acquire a name and a number on Facebook for $1. Today, the same process is $100. And so even in my business, sometimes you might have to spend $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 to acquire a customer. And so if I have a car and I've spent $100,000 and I lose $23,000 immediately, I've got to go without 5 customers who could bring me in tens of thousands of dollars. That's a big price to pay if you want to play. So I say, I don't want the car because I can't have the customers, but I'm prepared to buy the customers because it's what I love to do. If I buy the customer, I get to do what I love. And that's the price that I'm prepared to pay. There's a price for everything. Sometimes if you work for an employer, the price that you have to pay is your life. You have to pay the price of your dreams. And you don't get to live your dream. You're living somebody else's dream. And your dream quickly becomes a nightmare. So you've got to pay to play. And if you want to succeed in life, your dreams are going to be expensive. That $1 million house, it's expensive. That $100,000 car, it's expensive. That $25,000 Rolex is expensive, but you've got to pay for it in advance. The problem with people not paying for it in advance, Hurricane, is people go into debt and they buy all of this stuff on credit and then they live a subscription lifestyle. They can't get what they want now because everything's totally maxed out. So you got to get smart people, and you don't have to. And I love what you said there about the American dream. There's the Australian dream as well, which is a house and a plot of land. But then you've got to get a mortgage. And what people don't realize is that mortgage means death agreement. Death agreement. Till you die. And so many people get caught up in somebody else's dream. I've had property. I got rid of my property because I realized it was a death agreement. And for every payment that I made on the property, albeit, yes, it's gone up and they could be worth millions of dollars today, it would have cost me my dreams. So we've got to make some really good choices in our life and make sure you're choosing your dream, not somebody else's dream. I could have followed my family's dream. They said, Daniel, take over our business. And I said, Mum, I know what that business did to you. It sent you into a mental breakdown. As long as you had that business, you never achieved your life's goal. So no, I'm not going to have that business. I had opportunities to start other businesses, and I said, no, that's not for me because it's not what I want. Yeah, it could have made good money, could have made 5-10 times more than I'm making now, but I don't care because it's not my dream. It's somebody else's dream. So position yourself, play to your strengths, be prepared to take the hits. Go into debt to achieve your goal, but don't go into debt to achieve somebody else's goal. Like, hey, if you have this car, you'll get confidence. Car's not going to give you confidence. Buy this Rolex, it's going to give you confidence. The Rolex will not give you confidence. If you wear a $25,000 watch, you're still the same person. And successful people that I work with, if I said to one of my clients, he said, Daniel, why don't you have a nice watch? And I said, I don't have a nice watch because you don't wear a nice watch and your business is worth $100 million. And if I showed in up here and my watch was more expensive than yours, you would think I'm an idiot and you wouldn't hire me. And he laughed at me and said, gee, you're smart. And I said, I know, because I look at you, I aspire to have companies like you. Yes, I consult you. You've got 100 million in revenues, but you don't wear a $25,000 watch. So I can't wear a $25,000 watch because I look at intelligent people and I say, if I just do what you do, eventually I'll get the same results. So you got to position yourself really well in life. You got to be ready.
Thank you, Danny. You're talking on a very topic in today's world. I mean, influencers are out there in different forms of shapes, and the marketing is powerful. And you're right. I mean, you notice that a lot of people will go in debt to wear the watch and to have the purse and to have a certain thing. And I can say I'm guilty too. I mean, maybe not to that degree, but to a degree. I mean, I'm a little more on the fence with extravagant stuff, but at the same time, I mean, you indulge every now and then some things, right? I'm guilty of like spending money on trips. That's a different story. I love to travel, but I enjoy
buying memories.
Exactly, and I swear to God, that's exactly what I said to my wife. I'd rather spend $5,000, $6,000 on a trip and take as many pictures and have good memories, and that's why I look at it every now and then. I'm like, oh, that was great, that was good. I didn't get good memories, but I could just spend them on one item and then look at that item, and we know this for a fact. You can, to your point, you can get a $25,000 watch, and once you wear it a couple of times, it's going to be worth nothing to you.
It still tells the same time as your phone.
It is, but seriously, I mean, when you buy something, you can crave anything, right? The minute you have it and you own it, it becomes valueless. It's really to you. Yes, it may be still value, with value, whatever that the cost for it, where you can sell it or resell it. But to use like you wear it, okay, that's it. I've been there, done that. It's over. But that's it. That's you get like a sweet moment for like just like gum, right? You get that nice little juice, and then like 5 minutes later, it's not juicy anymore. Well, the same concept here, and people do that, and we all make these mistakes, and unfortunately, it is. I had a show before about talking about the cost of that in healthcare. I mean, to link both those two, because it's really powerful, because we don't get it. But the fact is, we work so hard, we get stressed, then we get sick, and then it puts a toll on the healthcare system. And we don't even look at that correlation, when you think about it. But there is an impact, and that impacts you, economically speaking, the government and everything else, the spending. And it's amazing, but it is. But the power of this influence, the power of the market, and you're right, the depreciation. You get into a mortgage, you're in mortgage for 30, 40 years. I mean, and the story. We don't even know if we're going to live that long. That's the problem. You have a mortgage, but you're not sure if you're going to like outlive the mortgage. And by the way, even if you do, there's a good chance you still not own the property, because it is still taxed, and you got to pay taxes. And if you don't pay taxes, Uncle Sam, I don't know what you call them in Australia, but we call I don't know if they're Uncle Sam there too, but
yeah, we got Uncle Sam.
Yeah, Uncle Sam. Okay, so Uncle Sam, the Sams will actually come and get you, right? But the fact of the matter is you're never gonna own your property free and clear, unless you have it in a outside of one of those countries where you pay it off and it's done. There's no tax, and there are places where you can do that, but it's very tough. But you're right; it's all about positioning your wealth, think properly, understanding what you do. And you're right. I'd rather spend 10,000 investing in my business that can generate 100,000 than actually spend it on something and I get zero or lose it. True story.
Key point, Hurricane, just there. I think I just want to reemphasize that if you do what you love and you invest 10,000 to bring in more clients and you make 100,000, you're also getting the opportunity to do what you love. And that's the thing. Like, I love to coach, I love to consult. So I'm willing to spend the money to get the client, because I'm paying to play. I get to do what I want. And so when I wake up on Monday morning, it's not like, oh man, Monday morning, want to kill myself, want to have a heart attack. It's like Monday morning, for me, sometimes my wife says, Daniel, you need to take time off. I say, I'm not taking time off the dream. I've just done 28 days straight. She said, I know you need to take time out. I said, no. I went to bed at midnight last night. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do a show with Hurricane. I'm doing what I love. Like, I don't want to take time out from that. There's no retirement from your dreams. There's retirement from your nightmares and working a job. And that's what a retirement is. The presupposition is, I'm going to do this for 30 years. I'm going to make these sacrifices. And then once I get to 30 years, I'm going to quit because I don't like it. Do you retire from your dreams? It's like, I don't say to my wife, okay, well, I'm going to get retired from this marriage from 30 years. It presupposes I don't like it. No, I want to be with you for life. Like, that's the goal. Like, I love you. I enjoy this, and I want it to go on forever. I'm not retiring from that. It's like my children. I don't want to retire from my children. It's like, no, we're in this together. This is fun.
And that's powerful. As a matter of fact, this word retirement, and we had this discussion, I think, in the previous show. When you don't retire, I mean, like, people. I mean, there's two ways to look at retirement. You can work until you can't work no more physically, and that means aged with illnesses, and you probably can walk, and you wake up at night because you're not feeling well. And what is the life there? You missed everything, right? Because you were like doing 12-hour shifts, daily, and working 6-7 days a week. You barely saw your family. It was a cost. You lost your family, blah, 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 all this stuff. A lot of cases, we hear these stories all the time. Or you can, work to save enough money to invest in something where now that money is reinvesting, itself. You're making that stream of revenue, and you're enjoying the life you want. And you never, by the way, you don't retire, because if at that point you're just working because you're having fun, you're not working because you have no choice, or because you're obligated to, because you are afraid. You're working because it's not even working. You don't even call it working. You're just enjoying it. You're doing your thing, right? You're waking up, to your point. You're having fun. And that's actually the difference. I mean, this is the big saying. I mean, if you are happy doing what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? Well, that's exactly what it is. And that's everybody's dream. I think everybody has that. I mean, some people say, well, that's not my dream. Well, that's okay. I mean, whatever dream, whatever floats your boat, make it work to your way. But the fact of the matter, we all want to have that freedom and an ability to do what we love and enjoy. The last show I had, actually, we talked about something similar where, you can, if you love art, you can use art in a lot of things. And an example, of the guest's daughter is that She loved art, but she did it in a different industry, but she still did art. So these you can combine your stuff, but do things that you enjoy and love, as opposed to like wake up in the morning. To your point, Mondays or any days will be the same days. You wake up and you're like a zombie, and you're working. Just click the car. You're commuting, spending 2 hours, and again back, and then like the movie Unhinged, or like the Kirk Douglas, had a nice movie. I forgot the name of it now, and that was one of those guys when he was just like completely off. That's it. He got tired of everything, and he just went on on a tangent. Well, that could just happen to any one of us. That's why you have people who snap, who have road rage and stress, anxiety, heart attacks. I mean, and then also it impacts the relationship in life. I mean, you're talking about your wife and love. If I'm stressed, I go home. I don't want to talk to anybody, right? And then what's the point? So you're not living. I mean, you're living in hell at home. You go to work, it's hell, and you're doing anything. What's the point? And yeah, well, it's not easy. Yeah, people say, well, you guys are, it's easy to talk on the show. Well, we're talking based on experiences. I have some, you have plenty, and we're sharing those with you, and you can take whatever you want from the show. But the idea is anyone has the same abilities. Your way, your formula may work a little bit different from ours, but at the end of the day, you can use the same concept. They're the same. You want to be in business. Well, how would you do that? I mean, I have a few businesses that I'm building while I'm still working, but I'm engaged. And this is my first business. I've had businesses, I've lost businesses, I've sold businesses, and I've had real estate, I've lost real estate, I've sold real estate. It goes up and down. But at the end of the day, you go up and down. But the idea is I have a plan, I have a time, I have a goal. I have a few years to work it, and I'm changing. Like we talked about the station and the radio and stuff. That's my passion, and I want to live my passion for the rest of my life. This is going
it's your
nowhere.
Legacy as well.
I'm sorry.
It's your legacy as well.
True. Well, that's actually part of it. I mean, we all know that we're going to depart one day, and hopefully these messages will remain behind. And someone later on, a decade, 2 decades from now, maybe 100 years from now, will be like, that's the dude, and I picked up one thing that helped me in my life. You know what? That's in itself a legacy and a success. And that for me, I always say this: if we can get someone to pick one line from our show and apply it in real life and change their life for better, our mission is accomplished here, and they succeeded, and we're happy. That's priceless.
Yeah, there's 3 things I say to my clients. I say, you've got to live life on your terms. That's the first thing. You've got to live life on your terms. You've got to do business how you want to do business. Secondly, you've got to lead your family, and you've got to lead your people to a victory. And they say, what's that? And I said, well, you're like the guy Moses out of the Bible, and you've got to part the Red Seas. And they said, well, what's the Red Sea in our business? I said, you've got to get rid of all the demotivators in your business. And then you've got to take your people to the promised land. And they said, well, what's the promised land? I said, well, that's the vision for the people. And they say, without the vision, people perish. So you've got to lead your family to a victory. And it's like my daughter, she loves art. And I ask her, baby, what do you want to do? She says, I want to draw. And I said, well, daddy's going to work hard, and you tell me what you want. Do you want pens? Do you want paper? Do you want art lessons? Do you want to start a YouTube channel? Because if you want that, then let's do it together. And let's get you to do what you want from a young age. I don't want her to go and study 8 and 12 hours a day and be totally unhappy. I want her to have that balance. So we're going to lead our people to a victory. But if we want to lead our family, we can't give them what we don't have. And so if you're a mum or a dad, success is really important, because you can't give what you don't have. If you look at your children and say you can be, do, and have anything that you ever want, and you haven't achieved your goals, if you don't have what you want, your children will never believe you. Let me ask you, Hurricane, did I show up this morning? I told you I'd be here. I booked in the Calendly. Did I show up?
You did.
So I'm a man of my word.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Can you lend me $1 million?
I would love to.
Cool. You'd love to, but could you lend me $1 million today?
Probably not.
Probably not. And so there's the point, isn't it? You can't give what you don't have. I'd love to do it, Daniel. I just don't have it. So mums and dads, leaders, remember, you've got to get success first, because being in leadership is the ability to get followers. And people look to you and say, I want what you're having. And if you've become successful, then they believe it to be possible. because people don't really listen to your words. They watch what you do. So you've got to lead your people to a victory. And then thirdly, you've got to leave a legacy. And for the average American, you'll work at 2,000 hours a year, whether it be in your career or in your own business. Super successful people work a minimum of 4,000 to 5,000 hours per year. So in America, we work 2,000 hours just for survival. Every hour over that, we work for success. But super successful people work between 4,000 to 5,000 hours a year. So with that, you've got to remember what you do, whether it be your career or your business, that's your legacy. And you can leave your legacy every day through your career and working for somebody else. Make sure you're just doing what you want to do, because you can have an impact with people's lives. And all you have to do, like you said before, Hurricane, give somebody one new idea and it can totally change the direction of your life. And then you get to say, I have made a contribution in that person's life. And people ring me up and say, Daniel, we've made an extra $1 million a year. We've made an extra $2 million this year because of you. And I say, thank you so much for saying that. However, you did the hard work. They said, but you gave us the ideas. And I said, yeah, the idea was cheap, but you took it and you implemented it. And they say, Daniel, thank you so much. It was because of you. You were the catalyst. Now, I love that, because I can say that business over there is writing $100 million a year because I gave them a couple of new ideas and I'm a part of that success. So when you look at your legacy, all of a sudden you can become parts of people's success, tens of thousands, 20s, hundreds of thousands of people. You can be part of that. And then you get to carry that for life. And that's where the joy comes from. That's where your passion, your purpose, and your energy comes from.
Daniel, that's powerful. But I did want to, just as you were talking about that, I want to give just one item that's true. When you say that to your business, folks that you work with and their success, they give you that tap. They come back and they say, hey, thank you. It's funny because I can tell you this from my own experience. I worked for many corporations and I've made them millions over the years. And when you leave those companies, they don't remember you. You were there, you're done, they get bought out, whatever. You were just part of that history, but there's nobody that's actually, memorizing or commemorizing your successes or anything, or even going to come back and say, thank you, you made us some millions. But in the case of your own business, in the case of doing this, it's a different story. It's a different feeling. And frankly, for people that work in, no matter how good you are, especially in the corporate world, I mean, you're getting paid for what you're giving them, and ultimately that's the end of it. That's the contract, your agreement you have. One day you'd leave, you'd be like a history, bye-bye, sayonara, maybe a goodbye party, a farewell party, and that's it. And sometimes they don't even remember you. And that's a fact.
Fatty donuts.
I'm telling, yeah, exactly. I can tell you, it's I've seen it, I've been there, and you know what? When you look at how much contribution you gave to these people, you work for a different company, and of course you work, you do your job, you do it ethically, you do it, with compassion and everything, and you deliver your goods and your expertise, and you get a little bit of, compensation for that, and you're happy. But at the end of the day, the true happiness and the true success is, like to your point, the legacy, and that legacy cannot be done when people are going to forget about you. That legacy has to be where you can see it live in the future, and people will recognize that. And to your point, it's not an easy thing, and in the world that you're in, it's a big world, and it's a more appealing, more rewarding, I would say, world. You get what you feel. You're happy. You're up at 6 o'clock right now calling me. From your. I mean, that's you, and you're doing it with a smile. I mean, I would probably be cranky at 6 a.m.
I've got coffee.
I would need like double shot espressos here, but it's amazing. And by the way, I mean, I have to say at the time, I don't know how the time went, but we're like over an hour already. I enjoyed every minute, Daniel. So I just want you to just leave our audiences with, maybe just 2 or 3 pieces of advice or wisdom that you kind of like want to drive in before we end our show today.
Okay. 3 things that you need to do to make a permanent change in your life. And this is really important. If you're at that fork in the road, you've got to do 3 things if you want to make a permanent change. The first thing that you have to do is you've got to get rid of all of your negative emotions. You've got to get rid of all the anger about the past. You've got to break through your fears. You've got to overcome the sadness. And there's a lot of sadness and disappointments in life. You've also got to overcome the past hurt. You have been hurt by words from your families, by your friends, by your community. And you also have to break through the emotion of guilt. So you've got to get rid of those negative emotions. You've got to get rid of your limiting beliefs. These beliefs that I'm not smart enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not the right color, I don't have the right accent, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time. You've got to stop telling yourself bullshit stories. And then you've got to get clear on your goals. And without goals, there is no future. Our goals give us our purpose. Our goals give us our motivation. And 85% of our motivation comes from our future. But the only way we can have a new future is if we let go of the past. So the first thing is you've got to get rid of all the mental and emotional garbage. Secondly, you've then got to take action. You've got to take action. And that's where it's really scary. I speak on stages in front of 1,000 people, and I'm a big shot backstage. I'm a big shot. All the things that I've prepared for, all the things that I was going to say. But the moment that you step out on stage, that's when you got to face all your fears. And all of a sudden, it's like you feel like, oh, I'm going to piss my pants. This is quite scary. And so, but you've got to take action. You've got to follow through. Most people are just talk, and there's no follow through. You've got to take action. And that's when your character is formed. And then thirdly, you must enforce your boundaries. This is the big one. You've got to enforce the boundaries on your family. You've got to tell your family, shut up. Stop telling me what I can't do. Stop telling me that I can't have what I want. Because as soon as you share your dreams with your families, they say, your dad tried that and he failed. We love you. Can't you just do something safe? You've got to say to your family, do not poison me with your limitations. And then you must follow through and you must do what you say you're going to do. And every time you do what you say you're going to do, your character builds, you become stronger. But every time you let one limitation, one fear, one doubt get in your way and you don't take action just for one day, you go all the way back to the start. And you lose your self-esteem, you lose your confidence, you lose your self-worth. So they're the three things you got to do. If you can do that, then you can master anything. First one, you got to let go of your negative emotions or your fears, your doubts, your limiting beliefs. And you got to get clarity on your goals. Secondly, you got to take action. The rubber's got to hit the road. And that's when you face all your fears. And then you just do the thing you fear until that fear disappears. And then thirdly, you got to enforce your boundaries. Do not let anybody tell you what you can't be, do, or have. And if they tell you and you don't challenge that, you'll actually accept it as your truth. So you got to say, you're not allowed to say that to me ever again. And then you just have to keep your promise to yourself. If you break your own promises, never expect anybody else to believe you. Do that, you'll achieve anything in life. That's my three things.
And those are very powerful things that, talking about education, you'll probably spend years to actually learn those things in the system, right? But those are most powerful, propositions from expertise and experience, and they're really true things that can make things happen for anyone watching and listening. So I thank you for sharing those. And by the way, you said it, because first you said about the family, but you're right, everybody. You have your circles, your friends. They can be the biggest motivators, and or opposite, or the motivators. And so circles are key, and you should, pick the right ones. And positivity is your friend. And stay away from negativity. I think that actually, reinforces that whole concept of the boundaries that you mentioned. So Daniel, how can people reach out to you if they want your services and or your advice?
Well, the first step is you've got to break free of that negativity in your life. You've got to overcome the self-doubts, and then you've got to start to smash your goals. So come and spend some time with me. Every Monday, I hold a masterclass called Unleashed Masterclass, and it's learning that first step there, getting rid of the fears, the doubts, the limiting beliefs, and getting clarity on your goals. And come and hang out with me. Monday, it's called unleashedmasterclass.com. It's a free masterclass live with me, and I'll teach you how to do it. It's easier than you think.
All right. Well, there you have it. And I will have actually a description or the link of your site and all your connections, so people can actually reach out to you as well. Daniel, it's been a true pleasure. I know it's the journey begins with you today. It's early on. We're about, winding up here on the East Coast, but I really enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you so much for your story, for sharing your life, your story, and your true work and how you can help people. I think I have been motivated here. I've got a lot of inspiration through this discussion, and I hope that other people watching and listening today can have the same and benefit from it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate. Thank you so much.
Folks, thank you for being with us. And as always, your host, Hurricane H here. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic, new guest. Bye for now.